Today we have Patrick Peyton with us, and he is a principal. And we are so happy that you have agreed to do this interview with us. So, Patrick, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name's Patrick Peyton. 32. I'm married. I have two children. I taught kindergarten for 5 years in Princeton, Indiana, and I recently, about 2.5 years ago, transitioned into being an assistant principal in Princeton, Indiana. I was born and raised here. This is my hometown. I actually live in a small town outside of Princeton now. I've been here my whole life, love the community, and love what I get to do here.
Awesome, awesome. So, first question that I have for you is, does your job require high school, community college, technical college, or 4 year or more degree?
Yeah, so with my position, it requires a 4 year degree to start. I received a 4 year degree from the University of Southern Indiana. And when you get your 4 year degree, you go into teaching. As soon as you start teaching, there's a clock started on you, and you have to teach for, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 years, but and then after that you have to have to go into administration. You have to have your 2 to 3 years teaching, and then you have to have a master's degree, which your master's degree, depending on how long it takes a person, it's typically two full school years in the master's program to get that.
Okay. If someone is interested in this kind of career, what classes would you suggest that they take?
Well, that's a really good question. I think at the high school level or the middle school level, if they have the ability to choose classes that they're doing, like for electives, I would take something that you're passionate in. For education, a lot of people go into it because they love to learn, they love the process of learning, they love discovering new things. And so I think finding a passion in middle school or high school, if you have the ability to select electives, is really good for that. As you transition to college, you will have certain classes that are required of you. But for me, I was originally going to be a high school English teacher and a history minor. Well, I took a few classes that were more geared to elementary learners, and when I got into those classes, I realized, oh wow, I really like this. This is something I could see myself doing, and so just by taking some elective classes in college, I found what my passion really was going to be for my career.
Does your job change often? And if so, do you have to update your knowledge and skills in classes?
I We have a saying in administration in North Gibson, and no 2 days are ever going to be alike. My job is constantly changing. It can change from little things, just like this year with the outbreak of the COVID-19. My job has completely changed.
I bet.
My day has similarities to say last year at this time. I do a lot with student discipline, do a lot with teacher leadership, but it has changed, and so the environment around us can change my job. State statutes and state laws, new requirements in state testing and state accountability can change my job completely from year to year, and that's one thing that I always have to be able to look at what I'm doing and go back to the drawing board. If what I'm doing is not working, I need to go and I need to get more training, lots of professional development. I just actually finished one in Seymour, Indiana, in the middle of October. I have another one coming up in November. There is a possibility that someday I might have to take additional classes to add on to my degree to keep certified and stay relevant and I guess updated on best practice in my profession.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of careers have that continuing education. I
Hmm.
know
Yeah.
I know mine does. And sometimes we
Hmm.
don't like it. When they say it's time for CE, we're like, no, no, but you got to do it. So,
Definitely necessary.
yeah, yeah. And usually when I get through it, I'm like, I'm really glad I did that.
Yeah, I agree.
How many days a week do you work and how many hours?
Well, that's a really good question. I have 5 scheduled days a week. Typically, I'm in the office at 6:45 in the morning, and my goal is to leave at 4 o'clock. But typically, I'm there till 4:45. A lot of days, just because of the demands of the job, I may not eat lunch. I may have things going on that require me to go past my normal hours, which pretty well on a daily basis I do go past my normal hours. There's times where I may be called to go past my normal school day. Just a week ago, we had inclement weather and bad storm was coming through. I I had to work about, I would say, 30 minutes over with kids in the building, and that was my first time in nearly 10 years in public education having to do that. There are other things that I do for my job that I cannot get done during a school day with all the responsibility I have with students, staff members, general upkeep of the building, parents calling and asking questions. Like I had a grant that I was needing to write. We have some supplies we're needing for virtual learning, and I don't have the time to do it most school days. So I went back in on a Friday night after I had spent some time with my family and my youth group. I went back in and I left my office at 1:30 in the morning.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's just part of it. But when you like what you do and you know what you're doing is making an impact in someone's life, it's easier to sacrifice those hours.
By salary or commission?
Um, I'm paid a yearly salary. I have a contracted amount of days, and I make a certain amount every other week. I'm paid every other week. My salary does not really fluctuate as far as adverse things that could happen during the year. I pretty well make that salary. There are some times when maybe there would be a stipend available or something that I can do for my job that might earn a little extra money, but it's pretty well that flat rate every other week.
So that overtime that you mentioned earlier, I mean, that's just given. There's no extra overtime pay. You just have to put in that extra.
Yeah, you just put in your extra. Now, as a salary position, there are some times I can flex.
Mm-hmm.
I can flex some of my hours a little bit. My actual reporting time to work is 7:30, but if I want to get any paperwork done, I need to be there by 6:45. But there may be a day where I have a doctor's appointment
Mm-hmm.
and right at 3 o'clock. Um, if I have coverage for the duties I do in the afternoon, I may flex some of that time and leave a little early for a doctor's visit. I don't do that to play nine holes or anything of that nature, but if there is some sort of family situation, I can flex those hours. But
Yeah.
I'm always over on my hours, and I'm not compensated for that outside of joy of the job.
Yeah. Yeah. And outside of your job though, what are your hobbies that you have?
So I would say, I guess my hobbies and my passions uh, all kind of revolve around my local church, as you spoke about a minute ago. I love our youth group, and my wife and I have been working in the youth ministry for 9 years together now, and I started chaperoning a couple years before that. So I really find a whole lot of personal personal blessing and fulfillment out of that. I teach Sunday school as well as at our church, and those are things that I really enjoy. Anything I can do to spend time with my family, I find those hours to be uh, the most precious moments sometimes that I get in my entire week is just when I'm doing something with them. But if I had anything personal, where it's just me,
Mhm.
I bought a four wheeler back in April, I believe, and that was much to the I wouldn't say dismay, but maybe it was just an interesting discussion with my wife, not heated, but just we both had some different ideas of what we could do with that money. But I did purchase a four wheeler, and I do like to go out and ride. Even if it's half hour, 40 minutes, sometimes I just enjoy being on my four wheeler.
Yeah, yeah. We um we have one in our family, and we like getting out riding on it. Just the wind in your face and just having some fresh air. Just yeah, it's good.
Yep,
We
I agree.
definitely enjoy that.
Hmm.
So why did you choose this career?
So that's a really good question. Kind of to backtrack, I said how I was going to teach high school English and everything originally. Um, I did that because I thought I didn't know how my interactions with little kids would be when I started having children of my own. Didn't know how I would feel about that. But I remember my freshman year of high school, I was sitting in a study hall room. It's actually in the building I'm in now. And I was sitting in the study hall room, and I heard a familiar voice behind me. And she was asking the study hall teacher, which in study hall, we all had to face forward in one direction and work quietly. And the lady was saying, "Do you have anybody, a high school kid, who would help me? I could use an extra set of hands during this part of the day." And I recognized the voice, and it was my kindergarten and my first grade teacher, and her name was Bobby Toole. And I turned around, she looked at me, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, you can't be this old yet." So I went up to her. She gave me a hug, told me she missed me. I worked in that room for 4 years, and it just had an impact on me. After working with her, I realized I wanted to teach. I had a fourth and fifth grade teacher who I'll try not to get emotional talking about her, but she has made such an impact on my life. Um, she has been there. She has been there for me. She used to hold me when I was a baby. I had her in fourth and fifth grade, and then she was my middle school assistant principal. And then I worked in her room a little bit during high school. Then after that, I would sub in her classroom. Then I got hired as an aide, and she ended up becoming the assistant principal of that building. And when I first got my teaching job, she volunteered for 2 hours and or 2 weeks free of pay. Came in and worked in my room after she had just retired.
Oh
Helped me
wow.
set up my room, and um, I that it was a rough time. I got hired during the school year, and then so I was playing from behind. And when I got my administrative job, um, the first person in my office to greet me was her, and she had a huge impact on my life. And when I was going down kind of a rough path, I was making poor choices, being influenced by peer pressure, trying to be cool. She still knew how to break me down, and she never raised her voice at me ever one time. Never. Goodness. She never raised her voice at me one time. All she had to do was say, "I'm disappointed in you." And even to this day, as a 32-year-old man, and she's retired in her 60s, if she was to say that to me, she could probably still break me down. But she had such an impact on me as a fourth and fifth grade student, and then in middle school, and then getting to work with her in high school and my kindergarten teacher. I always knew because of them this is what I wanted to do. They made both of them made such a huge impact in my life. Always encouraging me and saying, you could do this for a living. You could do this. This is what you were really meant to do, was teach. And I know that they had such an impact on me that I wanted to have that impact on kids in the future. And if I have had a tenth of the impact that they had on my life on another kid, then I feel like I've done my job well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's very moving. That is amazing. Um,
Amazing ladies.
you can never ever um, when you have that mentor in your life and you know how they've impacted you, it feels like you can never repay them, but and usually they don't want that repay. They just love
Yeah.
helping, just love giving and doing.
Yeah.
So as you were speaking, I was thinking of people who were just like this lady in your life has been in mine, and it's just like, wow, they just see something in you, they love you, and you don't even know why. Sometimes they're like, why are they giving so much, why are they helping so much? But
Mhm.
there's just blessings is what they are.
Yeah, they are. They're
Yeah, so
blessings.
young people, if you can find mentors in your life that give to you and pour into you, cherish them, be around them. um, can't replace them.
Amen.
Um, so next question would be, does your job seem exciting to you? And did you see yourself doing this job when you were a young child?
Um, my job is really exciting. There's sometimes it's exciting for not so great reasons, but it is exciting. One of the things that I'm finding very rewarding in being a principal, assistant principal, is my building has third, fourth, and fifth grade students in it, and um, I've known those kids since kindergarten now, but I've been with them third, fourth, and fifth grade as a principal. This is the first full class I've had go through there, is what I'm trying to say. And I've watched the the fifth grade, some of the fifth grade kids. I've watched how much they've changed, how much they've grown up and matured and developed academically, and that is so exciting to me to watch that process. I never, I that process never gets old to me. When I taught kindergarten, I loved having a student come in and not know their letters, not know their letter sounds, and by the end of the year, if they could read, there was nothing more exciting to me. I mean, it was such a joy to watch that process happen. So I do find my job very exciting and very rewarding. I guess I forgot the second part of your
So
question.
the second part was, did you see yourself as doing this type of work or job when you were a young child?
Oh, wow. Probably not as a young child. When I was a kid, I was more into. I thought I might go into law enforcement. I would be a terrible law enforcement officer. That is not for me. Um, and I guess I thought I would do something more mechanically inclined, but then I realized around the age of 14 that I was not mechanically inclined. So I guess then and later in high school, I spent a lot of time going in and out of the assistant principal's office. So I never thought I would really end up there on the other side of the desk, but I'm sure glad I did.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I almost am afraid to ask. How did you find out you were not going to do anything mechanically inclined?
Well, I would say when I realized that I had no mechanical skills whatsoever. This kind of comes back to taking electives in high school. I was a senior, and around 14 or 15, I realized I didn't know much about vehicles, didn't know much about tools, still don't know. My 5-year-old is better with a screwdriver than I am. So I decided my senior year I wanted to do something a little out of the box. And so we had I think it was called Intro to Metalworking, CNCs. And so we got to use like grinding wheels, we got to use CNCs, metal lathes, all sorts of things in there that I had no idea how to work any of this equipment. And when they put me in there, it was probably one of the worst mistakes that a guidance counselor could ever make, because I came out of there with constant injuries trying to sharpen a grinding tool. I took my thumbnail off,
Oh
minimum,
goodness.
minimum. I mean, almost all the way off. I took it off minimum 3 times in there. I burnt myself several times in there just because I would be milling something down, and the shavings would fly back on me, and they cooked my hands, blistered me a few times. Can't tell you how many times I flung something from trying to sharpen it. So that was around the time when I realized that the Lord did not intend for me to work on many things with my hands. So, full disclosure, I found it through electives.
Yeah, yeah. So by taking something new, you can either find out, hey, I love this, or hey, I hate this, or it ain't working for me.
My teacher, the guy was so patient. Larry Sisk was the guy's name. He was so patient, and when I would do something that was not so great in that room, which was, I mean, it wasn't all the time. It was about every other day. But when I would do something, he was the first person to like come up, put his hand on my shoulder, and be like, "What did we learn from this event?" And usually I would tell him, and he'd be like, "You know what, Pat? I like your attitude, though. I think we can make something out of you." I think he was wrong on that end. So, but I found my path.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But learning even from mistakes and things that don't work out. We learn from that.
That's right.
Um, we got a couple more here. Are there a lot of openings in your career field? And if not so now, do you think there will be in the future?
Um, right now, there's not a ton of openings. I know that the year that I had just graduated with my master's and my admin license, um, that there were 3 openings in our corporation, but it was mostly due to shifting of positions. So there's not a ton of openings at this point. I do foresee a day that there will be more. Um, and the reason being for that is in the state of Indiana right now, not trying to get on a soapbox about education or funding or anything like that, but teacher retention rate in the state is not good. The numbers are not good, and they're fine. We're starting to have teacher shortages pop up, even in rural communities. It's so hard to find a teacher to even say cover a maternity leave. Whereas when I graduated college, the teacher population was still pretty packed, and now we're seeing that it is tough to get even a handful of applicants for an open position. So, especially in special education or the more science, technology, engineering, mathematics, the STEM. Uh, so, why that impacts my position is if you have people leaving the teaching force young in their career or before they really think about administration, it's it shrinks that population of people that will go into administration even more. So I do see a point where we will see a shortage um, of applicants for administrative positions.
Okay. And do you have any pros or cons that you want to add?
Um, I would say a pro to my job is uh, one thing that I always enjoyed about teaching was I got to have an impact on 23 kids, and I got to work with them on a daily basis and really get to know them, really get to know their families. Now, by decisions I make and things I try to help do for the school, I don't say that in a bragging manner at all, but I'm able to affect more students, and I'm also able to have an impact on teachers as well. So that's a definite pro to my job. Another pro is when you have a passion in administration, you can really lead others down that path. And something that I feel like is a passion for me is social emotional learning. And I've done a lot this year and been privileged and blessed to lead our staff into exploring social emotional learning. So those are pros. I have more of a building impact, and I enjoy that. But some of the cons are really what I mentioned as well uh, in the beginning of that. I got to know 23 kids, 24, 25 kids so very well. Um, I think I could go back through all 5 years of uh, my 5 years teaching kindergarten, and if you gave me one kid's name, I could go through the roster in alphabetical order, and I could give you their middle name. I could give you one parent's name. And that was always so fun to me that I got to know those kids. And now I realize that I don't get to know the kids quite as well as I used to, because I spent from 8 to 3 in a room with those kids outside of lunch and recess. But I spent that time with them, really got to know them. Now I'm in so many different rooms and in so many different directions. I don't get to know all the kids quite like that anymore, and that's uh, that's kind of a drawback. The other thing that I would say is a drawback is sometimes I have to make really tough decisions, and decisions that I have to take home with me. It doesn't shut off. Things that'll keep me up at night, things that'll bother me even on the weekend when I should be focusing on a dinner with my family and it's running through my head. There are times I make decisions that are tough and they're unpopular, and those aren't always the those aren't always the easiest things that you have to live with. But um, I had good principals who made those decisions and bore that weight for me, and I'm privileged to be able to do that for others.
Yeah. Last question would be, do you have any last words of encouragement to those who would be seeking a position in your type of field?
Yeah, just be passionate. Start now. If you are in middle school or you're in high school and you're listening to this, get the most out of your education that you can. Don't waste any days in school. I will be the first to disclose to you that around my freshman year of high school, I was going through some things. Really, I was going through some spiritual things now that I look back on it, and it affected my performance in school. I went from uh, having like a 3.7, 3.8 GPA. By the time I graduated high school, I had like a 2.7, 2.8. I was goofing off and sleeping through classes, and I failed a class for the first time in my life, and it was because I I was unmotivated. I didn't want to do the work. I was just getting through. I was just kind of coasting through. So my advice would be, don't waste a day. Get the absolute most out of your education. The people you have in your life who are teaching you, whether that's a parent, a guardian, a grandparent, a teacher, a tutor, whoever it is, they are giving something and wanting to invest in you. Take everything that they're willing to put into you, and never ever stop trying to learn. Find something you're passionate about in education, whether it's science, whether it's history, whether it's English, elementary ed, special education. Find something that makes you tick and pursue it. Give every single thing that you can academically to it. And if you will do that, you will find yourself in a good position, because our state is in need of good educators, and our state is in need of good educational leaders as well. So if somebody will invest the time early and continue to develop and invest that time and not be afraid to work, they will find themselves fulfilled in this position.
Yep. I totally agree with that. I've got a mentor in my life, and his key thing that he always says is chance favors the prepared. So if you're
That's exactly
preparing
right.
yourself for something, and you might not even know what it is right away, but if you're always constantly trying to learn about something, or you're like, I find some interest in that, I'm going to read more about that or ask more questions,
Yep,
then you never know where that path might lead.
exactly.
So,
That's
yeah. I really appreciate you doing this interview with us tonight. To those who might have another question on their mind for Patrick, just get with me, give me a comment. I'll make sure it gets to Patrick, and we'll get that question answered for you. But thank you so much, Patrick. I appreciate you, and you and your wife have a good evening tonight, okay?
Yep. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good
Yes,
evening.
you're welcome.